The helicopter roared to life, its rotors whipping up clouds of dust as it hovered over the canyon. Tom stood at the edge of the cliff, his harness secured and a determined look on his face. The director called for action, and with a running leap, Tom launched himself onto the rock face, beginning his climb. The crowd held their breath as he scaled the sheer cliff with precision and agility, each movement calculated. When he reached the midpoint, the helicopter began lowering the rope. Tom leaped for it, grabbing hold and swinging gracefully into position. The camera drones captured every moment, the intensity palpable, even to those watching on the monitors. But then, disaster struck. A sudden gust of wind caught the helicopter off guard, causing it to swerve. The rope twisted violently, and Tom lost his grip. For a split second, he was suspended in midair, the ground hundreds of feet below. Gasps erupted from the crowd, followed by horrified screams as Tom plummeted toward the canyon. Without thinking, Emily pushed through the barricade. Her instincts overpowered her fear as she sprinted toward the edge of the cliff. Jake and the other crew members shouted at her to stop, but she didn't listen. Her mind raced, searching for a way to help. Tom managed to grab a ledge just in time, his fingers clutching the rock with a grip born of adrenaline and years of training. His body dangled precariously as he tried to pull himself up, the sharp edges of the rock cutting into his hands. Above him, the helicopter circled, unable to lower the rope again due to the turbulence. Emily reached the edge and dropped to her knees, her heart pounding. She could see the strain on Tom's face as he struggled to maintain his hold. Without hesitation, she shouted, "Hold on!" and extended her hand as far as she could. Tom glanced up, his eyes locking with hers. There was a mixture of surprise and determination in his gaze. "Stay back! It's not safe!" he yelled, but Emily didn't retreat. "I'm not leaving you!" she shouted back, her voice unwavering. She braced herself against the rocks and reached down further. With one final surge of effort, Tom grabbed her hand, and Emily pulled with all her strength. Together, they managed to hoist him onto the ledge, both collapsing in exhaustion. The crowd erupted into cheers and applause, but Emily barely registered it. She was too focused on Tom, who was catching his breath beside her. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. Tom nodded, a wry smile forming on his lips. "You just saved Ethan Hunt," he quipped, referencing his famous Mission Impossible character. "Not bad for your first day." As the medics checked them both over, Emily's mind raced to process what had just happened. Tom's gratitude was evident as he insisted she sit beside him on the observation platform. The director, crew, and fans surrounded them, offering praise and concern. "You've got guts," Tom said, turning to Emily. "Most people would have frozen back there. You didn't even hesitate." Emily shrugged, her cheeks flushing. "I didn't think. I just acted." Tom studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "That kind of instinct isn't common. You've got the heart of a hero." Emily's breath caught at his words. Coming from someone she had admired for so long, the compliment felt surreal. She was about to respond when Jake interrupted. "Tom, we've got to wrap for the day. You need rest, and so does she," Jake said, gesturing toward Emily. In the weeks following the incident, Emily found herself thrust into a whirlwind of attention. News outlets picked up the story, dubbing her the fan who saved Tom Cruise. Interviews poured in, but Emily remained humble, often deflecting the praise. For her, the moment wasn't about fame. It was about doing what felt right. Tom, however, wasn't content to let the story fade. He reached out to Emily personally, inviting her to the movie's premiere as his guest. When the day arrived, Emily walked the red carpet alongside Tom, dressed in an elegant yet simple gown he had arranged for her. Reporters swarmed them, but Tom shielded Emily from the chaos, ensuring she felt comfortable. During the premiere, Tom took the stage to address the audience before the film began. "This movie is about heroes," he said, his gaze shifting to Emily in the front row. "But sometimes, the real heroes are the ones we least expect." Emily Carter reminded me that bravery comes in all forms. This film is dedicated to her. Tears welled in Emily's eyes as the audience erupted into applause. The moment was surreal, but it also felt like the beginning of something new. Tom's words had ignited a fire within her, and she began to see herself not just as a fan, but as someone capable of making a difference. The days after the premiere were a whirlwind for Emily. Offers poured in from film schools, organizations, and even studios, each one eager to work with the young woman who had inspired millions. But Emily wasn't interested in fame. Instead, she wanted to use her platform to highlight real-life heroes and the unsung acts of bravery that often went unnoticed. She reached out to Tom with an idea, a documentary series that would focus on ordinary people who had performed extraordinary acts of courage. Tom, ever supportive, immediately got behind the project, offering not only his resources but also his mentorship. Emily's journey into filmmaking began with shadowing Tom on set. learning the intricacies of directing and storytelling. Tom introduced her to his network, opening doors she never thought possible. Their bond grew stronger, built on mutual respect and a shared vision of inspiring others. Months of hard work and dedication culminated in the premiere of Emily's first documentary, Unsung Heroes. The event was held at a prestigious theater in Los Angeles, attended by a mix of celebrities, philanthropists, and everyday people whose stories had inspired the project. Tom, dressed in a classic black suit, accompanied Emily on the red carpet, proudly introducing her as the visionary behind the film. Cameras flashed as reporters praised the work. The premiere itself was deeply emotional, celebrating unsung acts of bravery worldwide. Inside the theater, the documentary unfolded with heart-wrenching and uplifting stories of ordinary individuals who had performed extraordinary acts. The audience was moved to tears multiple times, and when the final credits rolled, the applause was thunderous. Emily and Tom took the stage together, thanking the audience and everyone involved in bringing the project to life. The following morning, Emily woke up to countless messages of praise and gratitude. Social media was flooded with posts about unsung heroes, with people sharing their personal stories of bravery and resilience. The documentary had not only struck a chord, but had ignited a global movement. One particular message stood out. It was from a firefighter in Australia who wrote, "Your documentary reminded me why I do what I do every day. Thank you for giving people like us a voice." Emily wiped away tears as she read it. She forwarded the message to Tom, who responded almost instantly. "Let's make sure they're heard even louder. Ready to take the next step?" Emily smiled at his words. Over the next few months, she and Tom worked tirelessly to establish the Heroes Among Us Foundation. The organization's mission was to provide resources, funding, and recognition to individuals who went above and beyond to make a difference. Their first major event was a global awards ceremony held in London. Honorees included a young woman who had organized rescue missions for war refugees, a teacher who saved her students during a natural disaster, and even a teenager who invented life-saving medical technology. The partnership between Emily and Tom evolved into a friendship that was both professional and deeply personal. Tom became a mentor, teaching Emily how to balance her newfound fame with humility and purpose. Meanwhile, Emily's dedication inspired Tom to take a closer look at his own legacy. One day, during a break from filming, Tom turned to Emily with a thoughtful expression. "I've spent decades entertaining people, but now I want to focus on something that leaves a lasting impact, just like what you're doing." Emily's eyes lit up. "Then let's do it together. There's so much more we can achieve." Years later, the Heroes Among Us Foundation had grown into a worldwide network of changemakers. From disaster relief efforts to grassroots initiatives, the foundation became synonymous with action and hope. Emily, now an acclaimed filmmaker and humanitarian, often reflected on how her life had transformed since that fateful day on the cliff. During the foundation's annual gala, Tom took the stage to introduce Emily as the evening's keynote speaker. His words carried the same sincerity and admiration as they did when he first praised her years ago. Emily Carter didn't just save a life that day, she started a movement, and tonight, we celebrate her courage and the courage she's inspired in all of us. As Emily stood under the spotlight, her heart swelled with gratitude. She looked out at the crowd of supporters, heroes, and friends and smiled. This journey began with one instinctive act of bravery. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that courage isn't just about grand gestures. It's about choosing to care, to act, and to believe in something bigger than yourself. The audience erupted into applause. Emily caught Tom's approving nod. Together, they had proven that even the smallest acts of heroism could ripple into something extraordinary. And in that moment, Emily knew the best stories were the ones still waiting to be told.